Hey everyone, look, I thought I'd shoot a quick video to show you where I was up to with mounting this clutch and jack shaft extravaganza on the back of the TRUTH. Had a bit of a chat with Haki, which was really good. I'll get to that in a second. So there's the ring gear, and it's given me a little bit of grief because in the design for the jack shaft I wasn't going to use this, but I think on the Salt it's probably a bit better to make things easier than it is harder. So electric start sounds like a good onboard electric start sounds like a good idea to me. So what I'm going to do, I need to get something machined up, not this, but something like this, to sort of slot into the end of the crank to give a surface for the sprocket to ride on, and then front sprocket steps out from the ring gear 24 mils, which has it perfectly in line with that one there, which is my so that's my primary drive. Coming around to the whole jack shaft mess in here, there's a bunch of bolts that I'm not going to use. They're just all for mocking up, so some are pretty long, as you can see, but I'll replace them with some Allen headed stuff and some nylock bolts and shit like that. So this is all lined up where it needs to be. This part here, well, actually just to show you what's going on, there's a shaft going through the middle that's splined just in its middle, and you can see the spline. You can see the spline with my finger. You can see the spline there, and you can see the same shaft with no spline there. So there's about sort of 70 mils at this end and about 50 mils at this end that isn't splined, and the rest of it's splined to match up with the standard LS type clutch, which this isn't, but you know, it's that sort of deal. So the sprocket at this end is bolted to the flywheel part of the clutch. They call it a flywheel button, I think. And currently it's spinning with the shaft because the clutch is fully engaged. So these plates here have got splined centers, which are hooked into the splines on the shaft, and they end that spline ends right about there if you go straight down through. So this part of it here is going to ride on a couple of bearings that I've got that can take some side load, some axial load as well as the radial load, and what they're going to do is transfer the force from the that's a clutch master cylinder there. Sorry, it's a bit dark. Hang on. There's a clutch master cylinder there, and it's going to push this way to disengage the clutch, which is going to try and shove all of this over here. Originally, this would have been in the on the back of the motor, so shoving that into the motor is not a problem. But I've got to resist it somehow, so I'm going to make a carrier, or I'm going to have to get a carrier made because it's beyond my level of skill, I think, to sort of pick up this and this, put the bearings in the middle, and then transfer that load down to the jack shaft, which will be all sandwiched together with spacers so that it's all locked in as one piece. It's going to have the things at each end that you can't see. I'll have to drill a hole in here to give some room for it, and same at this end to have some room. And so that's gonna lock up the whole shaft in one piece, but it's not going to stop it from wanting everything to piss off in that direction when you push the clutch in, or pull the clutch in. So what I came up with, well, I didn't really come up with it, Haki came up with it, what I'm going to do, I've got to remake this because that hole's too big. I'll put a thrust bearing in here where my fingers are. You know, where is it? Down in here. Fuck, it's horrible to see. So a thrust bearing down there that'll push back against the sprocket carrier, and that'll resist the force going in that direction, because it'll try and pull this whole thing in, and the thrust bearing will do what my sort of fingers are doing, and well, fucking really, my fingers are doing, and sort of stop everything from moving in that direction. Yeah, there we go. That should work, I'm hoping. This is set up to take a 3/4 inch master cylinder. I'm hoping to convert this end to a banjo and then run just a normal line from my master cylinder, which will be on the handlebar. That's 14mm diameter, so I think 14 compared to 19, it means I'm gonna have to pull it further, but it should be an easier pull. So it remains to be seen whether I can fucking pull it in with my hand when it was sort of designed for your foot. And these things, I'm not sure how tough the spring is. Anyway, fucking that could be a disaster, but we'll see. The whole fucking thing could be a disaster, to be honest. Anyway, I am a little nervous about things fucking not being balanced and everything, but the sprocket at the end, I've got that so it spins nice and true. This one is, as you can see, it's wobbling around like a motherfucker at the moment, and that's because it's just really sitting on those plates and it hasn't had its centre put in and centred. The thrust bearing is I would say kind of centre. Like, it's not going to be perfect, but I've built in a little bit of adjustment. So if I can put a spacer in there, I can. Have I done these up? Yeah. If I could put a spacer in between the shaft and the thrust bearing, I can kind of jiggle it this whole plate and then tighten it back up again, and hopefully that gets it close enough to being centre. The only time it's going to be in play is when I'm getting off the line or I'm pulling the clutch in to stop. So it's really it's not going to be used other than that, because as you can see, I've only got one fucking gear. Alright, that's a bit longer than I thought it was going to be, and obviously it's not finished. I've got to do a few, I've got to put some braces across the top of here and braces across the top of here, just to make those things stronger. They're 6mm plate, but I think they'll bend outwards because the clutch is probably going to be that tough to squeeze, which makes me worry about trying to do it with my hand. But anyway, we'll see. Thanks for watching, and fuck me, that's almost 8 minutes. Happy New Year.